Service is the essence of what brings us together as individuals and connects us to something greater. It is why we are all here, and it is one of our core values. It gives purpose and meaning to our lives. Some of these individuals we'll talk about tonight saved a life, they've witnessed a life lost, they comforted a family in their greatest time of need, they saved personal property, and they risked their lives. Some have supported the district in all other endeavors, and all of them advocate for our community. They have done this because they value service, and we can put no value on their service. I'd like to welcome Volunteer Captain Mark Puch, Operational Support Specialist Pat Claflin, Captain Chris Grant, Captain Scott Taube, and Battalion Chief Scott Reamer, and all your family members. To the families, thank you for letting them serve. We know the sacrifices you have endured, the missed birthdays, holidays, and special events, but we understand that they know the importance of what they do for the other families in our community. They made a difference in many lives and perhaps altered the future for the betterment of many families. It is not only the heroic measures they were willing to take, but a friendly smile, protecting the finances and policies of the district, teaching a child, or ensuring that all of our personnel had the support to respond. The connection the fire service has is strong, and over the years you have gained a whole new family. Over your career, you have built stories with this family. These stories will take you on to your next adventure, but we will always be here for you. Thank you for your service and allowing us to be part of it. You will begin to make new patterns, if you haven't already, like sleeping all night and never having to wear a uniform, and for Pat, never having to paint another fire hydrant. But just remember, when those patterns are broken, new worlds emerge. Commit to the journey and enjoy it. The first person we're going to recognize tonight is Mark Puch. Mark was a volunteer captain for the district. He started CCFD6 in 1988.
He was 24 years old when he became a volunteer. One day he was driving by the station and saw a sign that the district needed volunteers. He wanted to give back to his community, and he thought it sounded fun. Mark's dad was a volunteer firefighter for Edmonds for several years, so he knew what he was signing up for.
He started in a recruit class of 12 people. When reflecting on his career of 34 years with the district, which is an incredible amount of time, by the way, Mark says his favorite thing was responding to calls and being able to help people. But what he really enjoyed was working at the Clark County Fair. Every year, since the day he started, Mark would take vacation from his job just to work the fair. He never missed a fair until COVID. In retirement, he will miss all the people here. He says it's just a good group of people. He plans on continuing to work in the grocery business and make more trips to see his brother in Southern Oregon. So Mark Puch, we would like to recognize your service to the district. The next person is not here tonight, but we're going to recognize him anyways, and that's Pat Claflin. So Pat started with the district on April 1st of 2017. He heard about the job through Arnie Kuchta. He had never been involved in the fire service, but he was excited to try something new. He did say he thought about being a firefighter in about 1970, but hadn't thought about it since then. Prior to working at CCFD6, he had many jobs. He owned a landscaping business, worked for WADOT doing roadside maintenance, and worked for Evergreen School District doing maintenance and grounds. His main assignment there was the manager for McKenzie Stadium. Pat says his least favorite job while he was here was the one he was actually hired to do, hydrant maintenance. But he still liked doing them, and he knows that they're important. He said his favorite thing was being responsible for the grounds at Station 62, and it felt good when he would finish and could admire his work and curb appeal. Pat says this is the best place he's ever worked. His favorite people were all of you. But he really liked the operational support team. He will miss the camaraderie, sharing life stories, and days when he could go to lunch with the team. For retirement, Pat doesn't really know what to expect because he's never done it. He is going to play it by ear and hopes to spend more time at the coast and doing more fishing and camping. He is also looking forward to seeing his son more, which was hard because they worked the same days. He is excited to spend more time with all of his kids, his 2 daughters and his son. So we'll recognize Pat Claflin. The next person is also not here tonight, but it's Chris Grant. Chris started his career at District 6 on August 1st of 2016. He was hired as a training captain and he was excited because it was a position he was comfortable with and he felt he could deliver. Before working here, he had many positions at different fire agencies across the state.
Chris was drawn to the fire service when he was a teenager. His father was a volunteer firefighter, but in his teenage years, he witnessed a bad car accident and wanted to be able to help. He looked at law enforcement as well, but decided on the fire service.
He says since then, he doesn't feel like he's worked a day in his life because it's so rewarding. When reflecting on District 6, Chris says his favorite things were teaching the cadets and helping members with their professional development.
He felt the most success in his career once all the members at CCFD 6 had completed IFSAC testing for Firefighter 1 and Firefighter 2. He will miss the positive relationships and growth he has achieved here. He says we have good people and he knows he could call on any one of you for help if he needed it. The relationships here are the most important thing to him because of the nature of the job and the stresses that come with it. Chris's next adventure will be moving forward with a new opportunity as the fire chief of Umatilla, Oregon.
He is excited to give back and helping another organization grow. He will be spending time with his wife Teresa and son Chase. Next, we'd like to recognize Scott Taube. Scott started his career at District 6 on March 1st in 1993. Prior to becoming a firefighter, Scott worked on a golf course and was the grounds crew. He was a graduate and football player for Portland State University. His degree was in social science, and he also got a second degree in fire science. Scott became a firefighter because he had a love of helping others in their time of need. He also says that the job was thrilling at times. He can remember from a very young age chasing around fire engines just to see them work. He thought it would be a fun job to have when he grew up. Scott enjoyed working with everyone at District 6 and is glad he got to work with so many different people. His best job was being a captain. He promoted to the officer rank in 2005. He liked being a captain because he got to work with some great people, including Rick Streisguth, Joe Killian, Darren Bush, Jim Harrington, Tim Knitz, Roy Alstead, and Larry Reese as his battalion chief. When reflecting on his career at District 6, Scott loved hanging with the crews after a busy day of work and playing pickleball, ultimate frisbee, or bump to wind down the day. He also cherished making frappuccinos and coming together to make a great dinner. That was always followed up with storytelling, playing cards, and cleaning up, all between running calls. Many of those nights were long, and when they had a long night, many times they would just stay up, sit on the bumper of the engine watching the sunrise. He is proud of the relationships that he has built and working with the crews to make a difference in so many lives on their worst day. He said it is the best career ever, and he wouldn't change a thing. In retirement, Scott is going to enjoy not always being on the edge for the next emergency and taking time to slow down and admire the finer things. He plans to go RVing a bunch with his wife Jenny and traveling and seeing all the wonderful places he hasn't seen yet. The next person we're going to recognize is Scott Reamer. So Scott began his career at District 6 on January 13th, 1992 as a career firefighter paramedic. Just out of high school, he started volunteering with District 12. Scott said the decision to become a firefighter was easy because, oh shoot now, it's the best job in the world. Before getting hired, Scott got his associates in fire science and then went to Central Washington University, go Wildcats, to get his paramedic certification. After Central, he worked for American Ambulance and had several different partners, including Tim Knitz. Scott became an officer in 2000. Some of his best memories were working with Harrington and Stan Jones at 62. He also worked for 3+ years with Mikey Laster on the squad. There are some infamous stories at District 6 from Scott and Mikey's time together. I'll just say potato and bluegill. He can tell you the rest if he wants to. According to Dunlap, it was Scott Reamer and Kevin Todd who would always get him jammed up when Dunlap was an acting officer. When Scott became an officer and Dunlap would drive for him, Scott would always yell at Dunlap to slow down. But according to Billy, the reality was Reamer was the fastest driver at District 6. I think there might have been a couple payouts for that driving too. Scott says he will always cherish the family atmosphere The members have stuck by him and supported him in good times and bad. He chose CCFD 6 because he felt it was more family-oriented than a big city department. He also always lived in the district and had been a taxpayer the whole time. He appreciates that the tax dollars are spent wisely. Scott served the district in many ways. He was battalion chief of training for about 5 years. He then became a shift battalion chief in 2016. And one of his proudest moments was when his son Michael was hired here in 2018. In retirement, Scott plans to travel and work around the house. He says he is busier now than when he was working. Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. He recently returned from a trip to Nashville with his wife Britt and highly recommends we should all go there sometime. He will also be spending time with his children, Michael, Christopher, Celeste, Ariana, Annalise, and Allie. So Scott Reamer, thank you for your service for District 6. So thank you to you all for being here. We really appreciate you being here and recognizing these individuals with us. It's a lot of years of service and commitment to this department, and we wouldn't be where we are without them today.